What is up, YouTube? Welcome to another video with me, Lee, and Sam from FPL Family on the Fantasy Football Scout YouTube channel. Now, Game Week 4 is here. I can't believe that FPL and the Premier League is going to get any more bonkers than Game Week 3, Sam, but it just might. But give everybody a feel for, or tell them the results of Game Week 3. I don't think it's gone that well again for me, to be honest.
So I remember sitting here last week, picking the players for Game Week 3, and both of us feeling fairly positive, actually, about the players that we picked.
Pretty much how I felt about my FPL team on paper. It looked really good.
Bigging up the Man City players. Well, what a mistake that was.
Wolves will easily beat West Ham. Don't worry about it.
So, on that note, so you started with your defender for the week was Saez from Wolves. Saez.
Okay, yeah.
0 points.
Do you know what? There was a lot of people that played a wild card, and if you did play your wild card in Game Week 3, and you had Saez, Traore, Podence, and Jimenez, the Wolves treble up was on.
It was.
And it just catastrophically came falling down.
No.
However, if you've got those players, I would suggest holding on to your Wolves assets. I'll tell you why later on, because I've got one in my lineup.
Yeah. So.
But anyway, it didn't go well for Saez.
No. Yeah. You also then had Sterling as your midfielder of choice.
It's anonymous, wasn't he? Totally anonymous. I don't fancy him playing down the middle. City massively miss that number 9. Whether it's Aguero or Jesus, they massively miss it. And actually, they miss Sterling when he's not left because that's his best position.
Absolutely, yeah.
They look a bit disjointed up front at the minute, City.
And then...
So did Sterling get 0 as well? Or
no,
1?
he got 2. So
2?
A couple of points from Sterling. And then Southampton decided to play so much better against Chris Wood, so he didn't get any either. And scored a grand total of 2.
Yeah, and you know what? I sat here last week and I said, I'm backing Chris Wood. And I think if you remember rightly, guys, go back to the other video, you'll notice that I said, actually, Jay Rodriguez might be a better pick because of his pace. And actually, Saints played better against Chris Wood because Chris Wood hasn't got pace. I don't think Jay Rodriguez even played.
So you actually were better off to have Chris Wood, who did at least return 2. So grand total of 4 for you this week.
Wow. Excellent.
Didn't go hugely better for me with Reece James of Chelsea as my first pick of the week.
Yeah.
Just a 1-pointer from him.
Wow.
Much like Sterling, KDB. Nothing. 2 points for him. Saved by the man, the myth, the legend that is Harry Kane.
Oh, God.
With a 5-pointer and an assist. I make that 3-0 to Sam.
It's not going well, guys, is it? This is familiar territory for me, as you guys will know that watched Sam versus Lee last season. This is familiar territory, but it doesn't make it any easier. What I will say is I wouldn't say that's a comprehensive victory.
I take it. I've won it by a Harry Kane assist, which quite frankly sums up our FPL lives, doesn't it?
Yeah, at the minute it is so unpredictable, guys. If you've got a good Game Week 3 score and your team's looking alright for 4, doesn't mean that a good Game Week 3 score is going to mean a good Game Week 4 score. It is so unpredictable right now.
Mad.
It really, really is. So if you're having a bad start to the season, if your overall rank isn't quite where you want it to be, worry not. Plenty of time to go, guys. Plenty of time to go. Anyway, onward to Game Week 4. Let's talk about defenders, midfielders and forwards. We can't have a pick or 2 picks from the same team. We have to pick 3 different Premier League teams, and we have to have a defender, a midfielder and a forward. This week, I got the nice job. I can pick the over 10% owned, the big hitters who I think is really going to come in this game week, whereas you've got the slightly more difficult task of picking the under 10% differential. So I'm going to start big.
Go on then.
I'm starting big. Luca Dean.
Of course.
And listen, it's not going to be an easy game, that. They're home, Everton, against Brighton. Now, Brighton have shipped a few goals so far this season. I mean, they've let in 3 against Manchester United, 1 even after the full-time whistle. Who knew that you could do that?
Could do that?
3 against Chelsea as well. However, I did look at some of their underlying stats, some of their XG stats, some of their shots inside the box stats. It's not too bad a reading, actually. It's not too bad a reading. I'd actually back Brighton to do quite well defensively going forward. However, they're going to have to play very, very well at Goodison because Everton are bang in form right now. Pretty sure I'm correct in saying they're top of the league right now. Liverpool fan looking up at Everton at the top of the league does make for quite uncomfortable viewing, guys, I have to tell you. But they are bang in form. And I think Luca Dean, we haven't seen the best of this guy yet. We've seen glimpses. We saw a really nice assist, I think, in Game Week 2 for Calvert-Lewin's header. I just think Luca Dean, you need to be patient with him if you've got him. He's 6.0, so he's going to take up a lot of your budget in defence there. But a home game against Brighton, I think he's going to do really, really well. Thoughts on Luca Dean?
Yeah.
And Everton in particular, looking great, right?
Yeah, and the thing that you always like about Luca Dean is that, you know, there's set piece potential there. There's definite threat all across the field with him, and I like that about him. And like you say, Everton have been really good so far this season, so there's always the potential for a defensive clean sheet as well with him. So yeah, I think he's a nice pick. I don't think that Brighton game's easy. I think Brighton are... I've been really impressed by Brighton. And, you know, you look at the scorelines on paper, it doesn't look great. But actually watching them against both Chelsea and Manchester United, really, really unlucky not to get something in both of those games.
I'm really intrigued to see the battle on that side between Digne and Lamptey. And we know what Lamptey's been like so far this season. He likes to get forward, and that might leave space for Digne. That's what I'm hoping anyway, at least with my pick here. However, Lamptey does get back. He's a very good defender as well. So it's going to be an intriguing battle. But I'm going to back the Frenchman. I'm going to go for Luca Dean. You've got the harder pick of going for differential defenders. And after letting in 4 against West Ham, kind of surprised you've gone for Willy Bolly at 5.5 in the game. But talk us through that one.
So I actually think that it's quite a hard week for defenders this week. I thought the same last week, actually, because there was...
It's pretty hard every week at the moment, isn't it, for defenders?
I think so, yeah. But
not a lot of clean sheets.
And then, yeah, so you look at the fixtures and you're kind of like, oh, that doesn't look hugely great for clean sheet potential. So then you're really looking, I suppose, a bit like Luca Dean. You're looking for somebody with the upside to get attacking returns on top. But the likes of Lamptey and Digne and obviously Robertson and Van Dijk and Trent, they're all way too well owned for them to be able to be considered as part of my trio for the week. So I kind of looked at the fixtures and thought, that fixture for Wolves, on the back of what was truly awful result for them, Nuno Espirito Santo will not happen again. I just cannot believe that what happened against West Ham in game week 3 is repeated in game week 4. They're playing Fulham, who they haven't looked that good going forward. They haven't looked that great, full stop. But going forward, they haven't. It's been mostly about Mitrovic on penalties or...
I would go as far as to say they've looked terrible going forward, except for the 3 goals against Leeds in a game which they lost 4-3. They are the phrase I would use would be one-dimensional. It's all about Mitrovic. And we've talked before in these videos about how talismanic he is, and if they're going to win the game, it's going to come through him, be it a penalty or a header or whatever. I think if you nullify the threat of Mitrovic, which, by the way, Willy Bolly has got that's probably his number 1 job at the weekend, given the height and the aerial ability of both of those players. He's going to be a key player, Willy Bolly. If he can sort of nullify Mitrovic, I just can't see Fulham getting goals in any other way.
No, and I think for me, part of the reason I went for him over some of the other options in the Wolves' defence was that I think what you've just said is right, in that it will be his task probably to nullify Mitrovic, and as a result I'll be expecting a lot of ICT kind of scores coming through from him with interceptions and that kind of stuff, which should then in turn...
Clearances and stuff?
Yeah, which then should in turn boost him up the bonus points, so if they keep a clean sheet, there's potential that he comes in on those grounds as well, was my kind of thinking.
We know what Wolves are like in attack. I mean, I expect them to score a few against Fulham is the reality, but Wolves are
they never score loads,
they rarely go crazy, don't they? And for me, that suggests if Bolly can put in the sort of performance that, you know, where he gets those BPS, he gets the CBIs, the clearances, the blocks and interceptions in, could be right. Could be on for a 9-pointer. Let's see, and a bit of goal threat. We know that from
there is a bit of goal threat there as well. So for me, he was the defender of choice from Wolves this week.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, Odoi and Tim Ream do not look like they can defend anything at the minute. Never mind a Wolves corner with Bolly in there. Now, I'm kind of interested that you didn't have a look at Semedo actually as your defender of choice. That would have been really rogue because he only just come to Wolves.
Just arrived, yeah.
Only just arrived, but didn't look too bad in that first game. And I think there's a lot of Wolves fans quite excited about him. I've gone for Traore as my midfielder over 10%. He's 15.1% owned. And I wouldn't have gone for him in game week 1 or probably even 2. But now that Semedo's here, we saw in game week 3 that he's being pushed up that side. And I think certainly against that West Ham side, I thought West Ham were very well organised actually, moving to that back 3, or actually the back 5 when they didn't have the ball. And they really nullified the threat of Wolves. Now, I don't think Wolves are going to come up against anything near as organised when they play Fulham at Molineux. And I'm expecting Traore to find that form that he had at the back end of last season between game weeks 30 and 38. He's going to be on that wide now. He's going to be in that position where actually Nuno Espirito Santo is going to want him bombing down that line, pinging the ball across to Jimenez as he does. Yeah. It'll be interesting in this new system to see whether Traore actually sometimes cuts inside so that Semedo can go around the outside. It'll be interesting to watch that dynamic.
Yeah.
Either way, I expect Traore to be more effective and more dangerous and in more dangerous areas now that Semedo's there and he's pushed further up the field. So I think the 15.1% that own him at 6.5, I think he actually is reasonable value if he can start to find a bit of form. And let's face it, They've got the fixture, and not just this weekend, they've got the fixtures over the next 5 or 6 weeks to do it. So a nice differential for the next few weeks, actually, Traore.
Yeah, I mean, look, we know what Traore can do when fully fit and in his flow. He can be absolutely fantastic. Last season, I think, was in a little bit of an anomaly because that shoulder injury, just, you never really were sure where you were with him. Was he going to start? Was he going to be benched? This year, I feel like we've got consistency back in Traore's game. We've got more of a kind of certainty and surety with him, and with that, in a game like this comes, you would think and expect, a surety of points as well, particularly with Jimenez up top to kind of finish off the crosses he's putting in.
Yeah, I'm interested in that comment about assured starts. I think Espirito Santo's got a lot of options now either side of Jimenez, but I'd like to think that Traore is going to be his first choice on that right-hand side there. Be very interesting if he does cut in, because what we're used to seeing from Traore is get to the byline, ping it over to Jimenez. If Semedo's going to go out wide of him, and he does start to drift a bit more central, or with the ball drift central, he's going to be in and around the penalty area.
Yeah.
And you know what a pacey player can do in the penalty area so far this season. We've seen it with Vardy, we've seen it with a few other players. Bang, the slightest touch, they're down, and he gets the assist for the penalty. So I quite like him. I do like him. I called him a differential, I think, a few minutes ago. I don't think at 15.1 he's a differential, but I don't see him in a lot of teams, certainly not on Twitter. So I don't know if he's big in the sort of FPL community right now.
I don't think he is. I don't think he's a hugely template pick. And I'm actually surprised.
6.5 is a good price, though.
It is, definitely. And I'm surprised, actually, to see his ownership quite as high as it is. I wasn't expecting that.
Well, there we go. Traore, my pick in midfield. You've gone, and I've got a bone to pick with you on this one. Now, when we were deciding how to do this video, and I said, have I got the differentials, or have I got the top picks? Because if I've got differentials, I fancy James Madison, And you picked James Madison. You've stolen my pick.
There was actually quite a few, and I made a list of midfielders. So having said that, looking at defensively, there wasn't a huge amount of options in the under 10% ownership that I thought had nice fixtures this week. The reverse is true from a midfield point of view. Yeah. There are loads of differential picks in the midfield, who I think have potential to do really well this weekend. James Madison is one of them. Now, for me, first couple of game weeks, before he was fully back fit again, Leicester just looked off it. There wasn't the connectivity between the defence and Jamie Vardy up top. They were really lacking. They won the game, obviously, in the opening game week, but it was lacklustre, and it was won because of a couple of penalties.
Okay. Didn't look that lacklustre against City.
No, and then what happens is we get James Madison back in the starting 11, and...
Did he start that game against City? I think he might have come on as a sub.
He might have come on.
But when he came on, he scored a belter, right?
But and actually, the way that he is on the pitch and his responsibility within the team is so great. For me, when he's not there, I don't really rate Leicester at the moment. They're doing enough to win games, but with him on the pitch, they are a totally different beast, and he is the one that is that kind of magic creativity between Jamie Vardy, and I think from that point of view, there's potential for goals, obviously from him as we saw in Game Week 3, but the assist potential is also great, is huge from him as well. So I think in this game against West Ham, there's definitely an opportunity there for some good returns for James Madison.
Well, I'm not sure. As I said before, West Ham, I think, they're looking a bit better defensively in Game Week 2. They gave Arsenal a game, and then, of course, they beat Wolves in Game Week 3. So I looked at some of the underlying XG stats. They're right up there in terms of XGC, expected goals conceded. Not doing too badly, West Ham, after, frankly, a pretty bad Game Week 1. Now, I don't know whether this has coincided with David Moyes being sent to the stands. It could well do. Ever since he's not been in the dugout, they've actually performed pretty well, West Ham, including a very decent performance in the Carabao Cup, by the way. So listen, David Moyes, I think he's going to be back for this game. Let's see how they. I
think Leicester will have too much for West Ham this week. I think West Ham looked a lot better, and they were in their flow against Wolves, and it was a very unexpected result. But the thing about unexpected results is they don't often replicate themselves time after time. And I think on the back of a win against Man City and a really, really good performance against Man City, I cannot see
they're on a high. No doubt
Leicester lose to West Ham at home.
Yeah, shout out to Harvey Barnes as well, who was equally, if not more so, creative in that Man City game. 5 chances created, Harvey Barnes. So he's a nice pick as well. Was he under 10% or was he over? Got a feeling he might sneak over.
I think he sneaked over. Yeah, I'm not sure actually.
All right, well there we go. There's the midfielders. Let's have a look at the forwards. So I've gone for, and because I'm picking the over 10%, I haven't gone for Harry Kane. You'll be pleased to hear, because that's what Sam will pick every flipping time you have the overs. Oh, always. But I'm going to go for Danny Ings. Now listen, West Brom, and if you haven't watched the captaincy video yet with Joe and with David from a few days back, head over to the channel, go check out that video. David and Joe talk about whipping boys, and they talk about this all the time. They talk about teams that we should target that are giving up a lot of the shots in the box and a lot of the opposition's having touches in the final third, and those are all statistics. Those are all stats that we look at and say, well, we'd want to pick a player that's playing that team. Yeah. Let me tell you right now, David made a very good case for West Brom being one of the worst sorts of whipping boys that we've seen for a very long time in the Premier League.
Poor old West Brom.
They are bad. They are bad. I think they've given away something like 11 big chances already. They've conceded 2 penalties, and we know Danny Ings is on those.
Well, let's hope they give them up to Shay Adams, because he's in my actual fantasy team.
Shay Adams got off the mark last game week, didn't he? So listen, could be good value. But I think Danny Ings, with the penalties in his locker, that's going to be a common theme, I think, for us for the foreseeable in FPL, picking penalty takers in some of these picks.
Yeah.
And Danny Ings, he doesn't even need the penalties to score in this game. They've conceded 11 goals already, West Brom. So as much as this is a pick in favour of Danny Ings, it is a pick that is in... what's the right word? I just feel so negatively about West Brom. Sorry, Baggies fans. But the way that they're defending right now, I think Danny Ings could run right. You know what Saints have been like recently. They're playing that high line. I noticed that McCarthy played a little bit more sweeper keeper in the last game. There wasn't such a big space between the defence and the goalkeeper. And I just think I don't know whether they've cracked it yet, that defensive high line, but they're certainly learning some lessons, certainly from the Spurs game, and they looked a lot better in game week 3. And because of that, they'll press high up the pitch. West Brom won't be able to get out, and I think that's only going to benefit Danny Ings.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you. I hope you're wrong. I hope it all goes through Shay Adams.
You're looking for Shay Adams, I know that.
However, I think Danny Ings is a brilliant pick for this weekend, and
captaincy material for this weekend.
Probably, yeah. I don't see why you wouldn't.
19.5% ownership. I'm looking for a Timo Werner replacement in my team. Could be Danny Ings, and if I do that, might well captain him, guys. So Danny Ings for me, under 10%. You've gone for a man that's actually scored in every game so far, albeit slightly fortuitously at Anfield, it has to be said. But nevertheless, 3 goals already this campaign for Lacazette after a summer where we thought he might be sold. So listen, 5.3, surely more people should be looking at him.
I am really surprised that Lacazette's ownership is as low as it is. And I actually wrote a scout article this week. And one of the points I was making was about kind of players like Lacazette, who I think because of what was going on pre-season and a lot of the uncertainty about his future, he became pretty kind of, well, I'm not going there. And because those opening 2 fixtures were really nice, everyone was like, well, I'm going with Aubameyang because, midfielder and all that stuff that we spoke about for so long in pre-season. But I think Lacazette got a lot overlooked. And I think, historically, he hasn't always got an extended run in the team. He's often in and out a little bit. You're never really sure if he's going to start or not. Where's Aubameyang playing? All of that kind of good stuff. It's meant that Lacazette has become one of those players that, from an FPL point of view, we normally kind of shy away from a little bit. But you cannot ignore his statistics from the first 3 game weeks. He has returned 7 points in game weeks 1, 2 and 3. The height of consistency from that point of view, in my mind, has actually been a lot better an option in those first few weeks than Aubameyang. Obviously significantly cheaper, but the way that he is playing and the way that Arteta has set out the team with Lacazette through the middle and Aubameyang out wide means it's been Lacazette that's been the one that's the chances tend to be falling to. Now, over the course of the season, will Lacazette always start? Who knows?
I don't see why not. He's going to give Nketiah a chance, but it feels like Lacazette's his go-to at the moment.
And at the moment, everything about Lacazette feels very positive. His relationship with Arteta seems to be in the right place. Their responses to each other when substitutions are happening is all very positive. So I can't see that he doesn't start. And as a result of that, he's a nice, cheaper option into the Arsenal team. Now, I think we all kind of said, going through looking at Arsenal's fixtures, that game weeks 1 and 2 were the ones you target, and then from then on it got a bit more difficult because obviously there was Liverpool last week.
Yeah.
But this game week against Sheffield United, who have been so poor,
not good
defensively,
right?
Since Dean Henderson left, and I'm not saying it's all about Dean Henderson leaving, but I think that's a major part of it. They've lost a big leader from their defensive
O'Connell
unit.
injured as well now, long term. That's going to really affect them, I think.
It's a real problem. It's a real problem for Sheffield United, and I think Lacazette will be the one to make the most of it.
Yeah, nice pick. 5.3 staggers me, really. And I think that's because so many of us were on Aubameyang for the first couple of game weeks. It was like, well, do you want him and Lacazette? Probably not. And I guess if you look at his price bracket, there's Danny Ings to go to, and of course a lot of us started the season with Werner as well.
And
so
Vardy.
You've got Vardy up there as well, Jimenez in that price bracket. So it's
tough.
It's competitive in that price bracket. And the other thing you've got to say is that all of those three that we've just mentioned, Ings, Jimenez and Jamie Vardy, I'm afraid to say, guys, all on penalties. And of course you look at Lacazette and you go, all right, 3 goals in 3 games, but no penalties. So that's what's putting people off, I think. But listen, 5.3%, he's proper differential territory, and against that poor Sheffield United, started really badly, look a little bit out of sorts, don't they?
I think if you're going to wildcard in international break, and you know that's what you're planning to do, and you've got a transfer to burn, therefore in game week 3 or for game week 4, and you don't really have another kind of problem area in your team,
it's kind of a nice
Lacazette
for a week,
looks like a really, really great 1 week punt.
Yeah, if you're playing your wild card in the international break afterwards.
Yeah.
All right, I like it. All right, well there we go, guys. Let us know who you think is going to win this game week. I think it's kind of, there's a trend forming here, isn't there? There's a trend. It's 3-0 to you, Sam. Get in the comments. Let us know. Are you hashtag Team Lee or hashtag Team Sam for game week 4? Remind us of the pick. So we've gone for Luca Dean and we've gone for Willy Bolly. We've gone for Madison and Traore in the middle, and we've gone for Lacazette and Danny Ings up front. So there we go. I think Danny Ings against West Brom is going to do the business for me. But I am worried about that Lacazette. I like that, by the way. Punt on him this week if you're playing your wild card next week. Guys, leave us a like before you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new to Fantasy Football Scout, obviously hit that subscribe button before you go, and we'll see you next time for Sam versus Lee.
Bye, guys.